What's up, Falcons Nation? It's your boy Jew coming at you with another Atlanta Falcons video. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up. In today's video, I want to recap our first preseason game between our Atlanta Falcons and the Tennessee Titans. But if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you'll know when I've done Atlanta Falcons content. Hit that like button for your boy. I really appreciate each and every one of you guys continuing to tune into the channel. Continuing to support your boy. If you would like to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, you can follow me at Jew Talk Sports. If you would like to donate to my channel, you can donate to my Cash App, which is the $ Jew Talk Sports. But I do appreciate you guys continuing to share out my content on all the social media platforms. We are currently on the road to 2,000 subscribers. So I really appreciate all your continued support. But with that being said, let's jump right into the video. So in today's video, as I mentioned, I do want to recap and give my thoughts on our first preseason game, which took place on Friday against the Tennessee Titans. The Titans did win the game 23-3. And I want to talk about each side of the football. First, we'll start off with the offense. We didn't see much out of the offense in this game. No touchdowns were scored by our Atlanta Falcons. The offensive line is what really stood out to me. The offensive line really struggled in this game. It's not time to press the panic button just yet because on Friday night, we didn't see pretty much any of the starters out there on the field on the offensive side of the football. We had all backups playing on that offensive line for the most part. Drew Dahlman at the center position, Willie Beavers at the right and left tackle position, Jalen Mayfield, who's the rookie out of Michigan at right tackle. He really struggled in this game. Really sloppy football by our Atlanta Falcons in this first preseason game, which I know drove Arthur Smith crazy because he's a very disciplined head coach. That's why he has these guys running laps at practice and in training camp when they make errors. And there was a lot of laundry on the field in this game, a lot of penalties, a lot of errors by our offensive line, holding penalties, false start penalties, legal formation was another penalty that was out there in this Friday night's game. So a really sloppy performance by the offensive line and the offense. AJ McCarron, who's the quarterback number 2, started the game. He really struggled in this game. I'm not going to put too much weight on this game because he was playing with a lot of backup players on the offensive line and playing with a lot of backups in the backfield at running back and at wide receiver. But to me in this game, it's really hard to, grade these players like the quarterback position, the wide receivers and running backs in this game because the offensive line play was so bad. AJ McCarron had no time to pass the ball. He basically was back there running for his life. Even Caleb Huntley, the backup running back out of Ball State, he really struggled to find running lanes. I mean, the line was just collapsing, and the Tennessee Titans defensive line was in the backfield all night. So Caleb Huntley really couldn't get going. And like I said, you really couldn't grade these players on this game because of the offensive line play on the offensive side of things. Now, one thing I will say about AJ McCarron is, to me, he struggled to me with showing the quarterback awareness. To me, it was a couple times where he could have dumped the football down to Javion Hawkins, who was open in the flats. He could have dumped the ball to Caleb Huntley in the backfield on some swing passes. I think he did a poor job of being aware. And as a quarterback, you have to be decisive and very aware of your surroundings, especially when you realize your offensive line isn't giving you time. On a lot of the plays where he was dropping back, he was just looking down the field, and he wasn't aware of his quick options, his hot reads, which were the running backs out of the backfield. So I do believe that AJ McCarron in the next couple preseason games, the next 2 games that we have left, is going to have to clean it up. I think the rookie Felipe Franks looked really, really good in this game. Neither quarterback, AJ McCarron or Felipe Franks, had many passing yards in this game, but I think Felipe Franks did a good job of being very decisive. When he got in the game in the second half, he was really decisive as far as looking down the field when there was nothing or when there was pressure. He did a good job of evading pressure and running down the field and picking up positive yardage. When it wasn't there, he threw the ball away. So he did a good job of being aware. He did a good job of being very decisive, being that he realized the offensive line was really struggling and they weren't giving him time to survey the field. So he did a good job of just stepping up, climbing the pocket, and running for positive yardage. On one play, the play broke down, and he ran for about a 50-yard gain. He just stepped up in the pocket, evaded defenders, and he showed his speed. So I really think, in my mind, Felipe Franks could possibly be quarterback number 2. In my book, I would have him slated at the number 2 quarterback on the depth chart because I do think he showed me that he possibly is the better quarterback out of him and A.J. McCarron. Like I said, you can't really grade these guys off of the last game, the preseason game, because the offensive line play was terrible. But I think that Felipe Franks has a stronger arm than a guy like A.J. McCarron. I think he can make all of the throws on the NFL level. The only thing I think that A.J. McCarron has over a guy like Felipe Franks is experience, NFL experience. So I could really see the Atlanta Falcons keeping all 3 quarterbacks on the roster, whether they put Felipe Franks on the practice squad or whether they just keep all 3 guys on the active roster. I do think that Felipe Franks and A.J. McCarron has a chance to make this roster. But like I said, I can't really grade those guys. I couldn't really evaluate these players fairly because the offensive line play was so bad. And that's why we always state here on my channel that everything starts in the trenches. The game is won and lost in the trenches. If you can't protect the passer or protect the quarterback or block for the running backs, it doesn't matter how great of a running back you are. If there's no holes to run through, and if your offensive line is getting ran through, it's not going to be anything. I don't care if you're Barry Sanders. I don't care how great of a running back you are. You're not going to be able to gain positive yardage when guys are getting in the backfield in 1 second. So I definitely think that these next 2 preseason games are going to be huge for evaluating these players, especially the backup quarterback position. And even guys like Jalen Hawkins, he didn't get a lot of opportunities. Caleb Huntley didn't get a lot of opportunities, or Deontay Foreman. The running backs didn't get many opportunities, and the wide receivers really got a lot less opportunities than the running backs. Guys like Frank Darby didn't get much run. I mean, he was out there on the field, but he didn't get targeted a lot. Tajay Sharp was out there running very good routes, but he only caught like 2 footballs in this game. And I believe the one he caught for a first down was actually called back due to a holding penalty. So it just goes to show you that it was a very sloppy game on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm definitely looking forward to this next game against Miami to see the starters like Matt Ryan and Kyle Pitts and these guys get out there on the field. I'm interested to see the starting offensive line and how well they can protect the passer. And I want to see how well these guys do in the next preseason game. But this was a terrible game to me as far as being able to evaluate. I really couldn't evaluate the offense, the quarterbacks, because they had no time to survey the field and go through their reads and things of that nature. And the running backs didn't really have many running lanes to run through. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, it was a couple players that stood out on the defensive side of the ball. First, we're going to start out with Marlon Davison, the defensive tackle / defensive end for our Atlanta Falcons. He looked really good in this game. He really dominated. You guys know that I'm an Auburn Tigers fan in college football. He is one of my former Auburn Tigers players. He did really well in this game. He was a man amongst boys. They couldn't block him. He was unblockable in this game, which he should have been because the tight ends were playing their backup players as well. So I was happy to see Marlon Davidson go out there. This is his 2nd season in the league, and he really dominated and showed his presence on the inside of that defensive line. His presence was felt in the running game. His presence was felt in the passing game with him pushing the pocket and collapsing the pocket. And he did a really good job in Friday night's game of showing why he could possibly be a starter for our Atlanta Falcons this year and take some of the pressure off of a guy like Grady Jarrett. Also in this game, a couple other players that stood out to me, Jalen Hawkins, the 2nd-year safety. He looked really good in this game. Dean Pease did a great job of scheming up blitz packages with our safeties and corners and linebackers. that double A gap pressure. He did a good job of showing a couple wrinkles. And Jalen Hawkins had a nice sack where he came in and was able to sack the quarterback, the backup quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. So he really looked good in this game. He looked good in coverage. It was one play where he jumped the route and almost had an interception. He looked really physical out there, did good in tackling, and he just had an all-around really good game on the back end. So it does look like these younger players are starting to develop. I was really impressed with Jalen Hawkins. I do think he's one of those guys that's been the forgotten man. With us bringing in a guy like Richie Grant, all of the hype's been around Richie Grant, but he's been a guy that's been under the radar. But I do think that Jalen Hawkins is a very physical safety, and he did a good job in coverage. So I was really impressed with Jalen Hawkins. Another player that really stood out when he was in the game, Jacob Tuioti-Mariner. On the first drive, he did a good job of bringing pressure off the edge and made the quarterback step into a sack. And it was Jonathan Bullard, who was another defensive tackle on our team that we brought in this year from the Chicago Bears. He had a sack in this game, and that was due to the pressure of Jacob Tuioti-Mariner screaming off the edge, making the quarterback have to step up. And Jonathan Bullard did a good job of, getting through the offensive line, the interior offensive line, and making a nice sack on the first drive of the game. So I definitely think that the defensive line as a whole played really well collectively. I was really impressed also with the rookie AO. Antetokounmpo Ogundeji did a good job in this game as well. In the run game, he did a good job of shedding blocks, and he made a couple tackles on the running backs in the running game. And he also did a good job where he had a half of a sack where he came off the edge when they brought pressure. He was one of those guys that had a half a sack. Him and I don't remember exactly who else made the sack, had the half a sack with him, but he had a good game in this game. He did a good job of showing that he's an all-around defensive end / outside linebacker. He did have a rookie mistake on third down where he jumped off sides and allowed the Titans to get a first down. But for the most part, from what I've seen out of the kid, he did a good job of setting the edge in the running game. And he did a good job on that play where he had the half a sack. I forget who had the half a sack with him. I believe it might have been Michael Walker, if I'm not mistaken, who's one of the starting linebackers who also played really well in this game. But he didn't see a ton of action in this game. When he was out there for the first couple drives, Michael Walker actually did a great job as well. And I believe it was him, if I'm not mistaken, that had that half a sack with Ogundeji. But those were the couple players that stood out to me. Another player that really stood out as far as the linebacking core, all of the guys in the linebacking core look really good. Errol Thompson, he had a big hit on a quarterback pressure. Darian Etheridge, I believe his name is Darian Etheridge. He's a guy that had a really good game, had about 13 tackles, if I'm not mistaken. And he was a guy that had, I believe, 3 tackles for loss as well. He was like the player of the game, but he played really, really good. So I really believe that this Atlanta Falcons linebacking core, I've made many videos talking about how great our linebacking core is. Even our backup linebackers are really, really good. I was really impressed with this kid, Darian Etheridge. I don't know much about him, hadn't heard much about him in camp. But he's a guy that's about 6'3", 200 plus pounds, 230 to 240 pounds. And he's a guy I think that could easily make this roster, especially on special teams. Him and Errol Thompson, both of those guys played really, really well in this game. But Darian Etheridge was all over the place. He was playing like a man possessed with his hair on fire. He was all over the field, making tackles in the backfield on running backs. Tackling, wide receivers, tight ends down the field. He was a guy that was all over the field, and I could easily see him being one of those guys that could be a depth player if you have an injury. He showed that he has great athleticism, and to me, he's the best backup linebacker that we have on the roster. So if it came down to Errol Thompson or a guy like Darian Etheridge, based off of this first preseason game, I would keep Etheridge on the roster because he has a little bit more size than a guy like Errol Thompson. But I think one of these guys definitely will make the roster, and one of these guys may be placed on the practice squad. But both guys had really good games, and I've been really impressed with our linebacking core. Michael Walker, Deion Jones, Foye Oluokun, and then now you add Earl Thompson and you add Darian Etheridge. We have a really, really strong linebacking core. So I was really impressed with the linebacking core. I think they had the best game out of all of the guys on the defense. I think that the linebacking core, that second level, really, really stood out to me in this game, and I was really, really impressed. Out of the secondary, Chris Williamson, who I believe wears the number 29, he looked really, really impressive as well in this game. He's a guy in camp that they've been talking about that's been competing for a spot on this team with a guy like Kendall Sheffield. And he almost had an interception as well on the in-breaking route in this game. He did a good job in man-to-man coverage, and he looked like a solid player. He made a couple tackles in the for loss in this game against running backs. He was not scared to come up and run support. And you guys know how much I value tackling for your cornerbacks and things of that nature, being able to tackle one-on-one in certain situations. And I was really impressed with his coverage ability in this game. And I think that he has a chance to make the roster as well. Like I said, he's been getting a lot of, turning a lot of heads at training camp. Arthur Smith has mentioned his name many times in his press conferences at training camp. And I think he's going to get every opportunity to make this roster. But out of the secondary, out of the cornerbacks that played, Chris Williamson was the guy that stood out the most to me. Richie Grant played really well in this game as well. Did a good job of tackling and showing his physicality. He came in on a blitz on one play. He came down in the box and made a nice tackle on the running back in this game. But I think all of these young players played really well, and the defense was the silver lining in this game. I think the silver lining in the game was definitely the defense. The defense was really, really aggressive. One thing I really noticed about Dean Pease's scheme, which I already knew, was that these guys are not going to be passive. They're going to be playing a downhill style of defense. And I love the hit first mentality, not dropping these guys back, but allowing these guys to attack, be in attack mode, allow these guys to use their speed. And these guys did a good job of getting multiple hacks to the football. I think that was something last year that we struggled with early in the season. But in this game, I think they did a good job of getting a bunch of hats to the football and playing downhill football. The linebackers was screaming downfield on the running backs. The defensive line was very aggressive, and I was really, really impressed with the defense. Now, on the special team side of things, Younghoe Koo, when he had his opportunity to go out there and kick a field goal, he was money just like he was last season, and that was the reason he made the Pro Bowl last year. There's not much else to say about Younghoe Koo. We know how great of a kicker he has been since he's been here with our Atlanta Falcons. So I knew that he was, going to be reliable. He came right in, kicked the field goal when we was in field goal range, did a really good job. Our punters, I believe in this game they had Nazalek out there punting. He did a good job of punting in this game. Now they did have a big return against us, the Tennessee Titans. On the return, they returned the ball for I think it was 40 or 50 yard return. But once they got into the red zone, our defense did a good job of clamping down. So we do need to clean that up as far as on the special team side of things. We have to be better in that aspect as far as going down the field and making the tackle. That was the only, black mark that I seen against the special teams, or the only negative thing I have to say about the special teams was they allowed one big return. But other than that, the punter did a good job in this game. Nazalek, he did a good job in kickoff return coverage. All of the coverage was really good on kickoff returns. We just had that one bad punt return. Now, as far as kick returners, I think Avery Williams, I definitely think that he's going to make the roster. I believe he'll be the punt returner, and I think that Cordell Patterson will be the kickoff returner. But I think on punt returns, I've seen enough out of Avery Williams in this game. He showed that he was really electric, and he had great vision as far as punt return. So I was really impressed with Avery Williams. not only in the punt return game and kickoff return game, but I was also really impressed with Avery Williams when they actually put him in the game in the second half as a cornerback. He did play cornerback at Boise State and did have a bunch of return kickoffs for touchdowns, but he showed that he had the ability to cover as well. So I'm really intrigued to see in the next couple games if they put him out there more on defense to see how well he covers, whether you're putting him at the nickel back or whether you're putting him on the outside. In this game, they had him playing the outside corner position, and he did a good job. Now, I'm not going to put a whole lot of weight on him playing that cornerback position because he was playing against third and fourth and fifth string wide receivers by that point, because it was like the fourth quarter against the Titans. But when he got his opportunity and when they tried him in man-to-man coverage, he did a good job of plastering the wide receiver, not allowing him space to catch the football. And he did a great job of getting his head around to the football. And I believe that has a lot to do with him being a great punt returner and kickoff returner, that he has great ball awareness, great hand-eye coordination. And I definitely am intrigued, definitely will be intrigued to see him more on the defensive side of things and see how well he can cover it as a DB, because he could definitely make this roster as maybe the fifth or sixth DB. And I definitely think that he's going to be a gem in the special team side of things. But with that being said, this been your boy Jew. I definitely was, like I said, impressed with the defense, impressed with Dean Pees' scheme. Like I said, I couldn't really get a fair evaluation on the quarterbacks or the offense because of the poor offensive line play. So I'm definitely going to be looking for this Dolphins game, the next game, which is I believe this Saturday. I'm definitely looking forward to watching this second preseason game. Looking forward to seeing the starters get out there for a couple plays or a couple drives to see how well those guys perform. But I was really impressed, like I said, with the defense. To me, they won the day Friday night in that first preseason game. That was the only bright spot that I took out of this first preseason game, was the aggressiveness of the defense and how well the defense played as a whole. But with that being said, this been your boy Jew. You guys let me know what you think of the video. Definitely drop your comments below. But I really appreciate you guys. I'm going to have a lot more coming for you guys this week as far as content. But I do appreciate each and every one of you guys. And as always, Falcons Nation, if you enjoy my content, please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button for your boy. We are on the road to 2,000 subscribers. But with that being said, this has been your boy Jew. I'll holler at you guys in the next video. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up. Peace.